So we started off with hearing from Rini, who is dialing in from the Australian National University in Australia. And she gave us insight to different types of values and how we might perceive those through the value chain or through the supply chain of mining. And she introduced us to terms such as value laundering and also value tension. And so I really am looking forward to seeing her research develop over the next few years in terms of value laundering and what she really means by that and whether it makes it, because it's great clickbait, even just by itself. Then, of course, we went from the world of social aspects and values into the world of geology. And Milena gave what I think is the best talk I've ever heard on what is going on with regards to the copper belt in the DRC in Zambia. Thank you so much, Milena. I'm going to be sharing that with many, many, many people because you made it so understandable and very pragmatic, I guess, in terms of what is actually there. So thank you so much for that. Um, and then we hopped across to Grace, who talked about resource stewardship, and especially with regards to water, because water is one of those really annoying things. It doesn't sit within those boundaries of permits or license areas. It has this propensity to flow. And also, as well, in terms of going beyond the life of an asset or what have you, is one of those key aspects that we need to be thinking about as well. Then Priscilla gave her recorded talk that, again, I will be going back and listening to that a number of times. Firstly, she just destroyed the title of this conference because she said, Sarah, what are you doing? You should not be calling this certainty. But Priscilla, do you think we maybe did that intentionally to provoke this kind of outcome? Wahaha. So this was a case here where Priscilla just gave us so many great things to think about. And it's not about certainty, actually, it's about defensibility and moving to transparency, acceptability, accountability, all of those different aspects, which teed us up beautifully for Anthony. So the second Dr. A. Duran that we have on the call today. And Anthony brought in his experience from the biological world and things like evolution and the fact that diversity is a really good thing because that then allows us to be way more resilient and robust. And actually, if we were all the same, we probably would have been wiped out a long time ago. I think is maybe one way of looking at it. So yeah, diversity is a good thing. Then back into that world of risk and Jan Heng, where we talked about not only what we can learn from other sectors, but also opportunity framing. And instead of us thinking about certainty as being a bad thing, and in fact, maybe it's not certainty at all. So Jan Henk also was in the world of Priscilla saying that the name of conference was rubbish. So thank you very much for that, Jan Henk. Actually, this is about uncertainty and working out well where we can actually manage this, depending on what direction it is we're actually traveling in. And then finally, of course, we've just heard from Fiona, who not only has huge experience with regards to Latin America, but really thinking about, I think one of the first sentences you said, Fiona, was this is not about for Latin America, it's about in Latin America. And so how do we make sure that, or how do we all work together to ensure that actually those amazing resources that are sitting there in Latin America give the best opportunities for everybody concerned? It's not something where other countries around the world go and raid it, because that would be a little bit old-fashioned, shall we say. So given that those are some of the thoughts that we've been sharing in today's session, maybe if we just work our way around the room. And Grace, perhaps if I start with yourself, just to hear, are there any key thoughts you would like to share with everyone, or key takeaways, or things that made you go, huh, I hadn't thought about it like that before? And then we'll go to Anthony.
Yeah, sure. I think from my side, the value laundering term that started the day was really impactful because I actually kind of took that thought forward through all the presentations and every aspect people were talking about and how you really need to think, well, actually, is this component intrinsically related to the stakeholders of the mine, or is it coming from somewhere else? So that was a massive, huge take home. Priscilla's presentation in particular around how we talk about risk and the fact and uncertainty, and there were a number of others that mentioned this too in their conversations, I think was absolutely right. There's extreme uncertainty all the time in mining, and it's how we manage that. And the one point that we probably didn't highlight yet, that was made was it's when nothing is going wrong that actually we're most vulnerable. And I just wanted to pick that one up and reiterate it, because that's when we get maybe complacent and think things are going well. I think Jan kind of was leaning towards that in his risk discussions as well. I really liked the again, I already mentioned with Anthony, this idea that diversity really matters, and my head immediately took that into the engineering space where, the everyone wants to optimize down to the most minute amount of concrete or materials they need for lots of good reasons, but actually maybe thinking about the value, the intrinsic value of having those other options available to you in a time of change would be really valuable. Everyone, it was amazing. Thank you for inviting me to the panel. Everyone here did a fantastic job, and it was great to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Grace. Brilliant. Anthony, how about yourself? And then we'll go to Milena.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that kind of resonated with me throughout, in particular through the questions and the discussions. But I suppose first thing, which is always really nice, is we had a lot of different perspectives and different ways of looking at similar kind of problems. And I think that was really, from my perspective, really engaging. And I think really important that we're exposed to those different approaches or different ideas. But, one of the things that kind of also resonated with me quite a lot is again this kind of idea that just because something works really well doesn't mean it can't improve and can't change, and that seems to be somewhat of a common theme across a lot of these discussions and talks. And that's something that I really like because I think it's very easy to become comfortable with the way things are at the risk of them falling over unexpectedly and not being in a place to respond to that. So I think from my perspective, that's one thing I really enjoyed was a lot of different approaches and views that really all complement and supplement each other in different contexts. So that's something that I thought was quite nice.
I love that. I think that, yeah, so just because something works doesn't mean to say it can't change. And I guess sometimes as well, things work really well for one bit of the system. And actually, but then for the broader part of the system, actually, that might be the need for some things to change as well. Brilliant. Thank you. Milena, let's go to the geologist and then we'll go to Fiona.
I think that I want to summarize this panel with a word, which is integration. And with this, I want to thank the organizers, the organizing committee of this conference for inviting the geologists. There's many geologists here, but to talk about specifically about geology. And I think it's a great step towards the integration of geology within all the policymakers and all the stakeholders. So yeah, I'm very glad that we start to see this integration of geology. And I think also a takeaway point from this session is that as a geologist, I have so much to learn about the social aspects of mining. And there's so many terms here that I wasn't familiar with. So I'm really glad that I took part of this. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the sessions today and learning more about the social aspects of it. So thank you all for sharing your knowledge.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Milena. Yes, I think if we have one problem, it is often we have too many geologists in this conference every year, and that's because we're biased. We often have too many women. Can you ever have too many women? Fiona, over to you, and then we'll finish with Jan Henk. You're on mute, by the way, Fiona.
Thank you. Well, I've really appreciated learning from the geologists. So I think that's what's really important. And I guess what surprised me about this conference, which I've not been involved in before, is that range of perspectives. And I think that's a real added value that we should capitalize on more in the future. And also, I do feel this world of mining is very siloized. So it both doesn't necessarily talk or draw on other sectors. And even within mining itself, you've got all these specialities. And actually, I think we need to all come together much more and also project out to others much more who are not involved in mining why all this stuff's important and why it impacts on them and why they might be able to help.
Yeah, exactly. Because we need to show people where they can help, I
Yeah.
think, as well, don't we? And I mean, full disclosure, in terms of the way that we run this conference, so we always think, great, who do we want to get to speak? Who do we want to hear from? And then we write emails to everyone. We say, right, what's your availability? And that's how we do it, isn't it, Aileen and Miranda? We literally do it based on people's availability. And once that comes in, we then go, right, okay, here could be a bit of a story flow for each session, most of which goes out the window because some people change their minds as to when they might be available, which is no problem at all because we'll just roll with it. But it's fascinating because often people say, oh, but what's the theme of each session? We don't know until people actually share their thoughts and feelings. So Melena's already given us the theme for this session, which was integration. So thank you very much for that. But brilliant. Thank you very much, Fiona. And Jan Henk, any final thoughts from yourself?
I leave with a lot of optimism. I really liked the contribution of all the presenters, and I think what I particularly appreciated was that it was all grounded in how their particular aspect impacts society and how it links into the communities that we work with and within. And we cannot forget that that is who we are serving. And the fact that all of us touched upon that particular point in one way or another, and all of us identified problems, but also came with solutions, fills me with a lot of confidence that we humans are incredibly adaptable. And I think if we put the right minds together, we can climb mountains. And yes, the mountains that Fiona has sketched are very high and but need scaling. It's as simple as that. And the only way we can scale them is to use Melena's words, through integration of all the people around this call. And what I've heard today fills me with a lot of optimism. And on that note, I'd like to really thank you guys for organizing this, because putting such a diverse panel together is quite stunning. And I think it's been a phenomenal group of people. I've certainly learned a lot. I've certainly got a couple of people I'm going to reach out to for further contact after this. So thank you so much for doing that.
Absolute pleasure, Jan Henk. Thank you very, very much. And we always learn a huge amount as well. So with that, that's the end of this morning's session. And thank you very much to all of our fabulous speakers. It's been truly brilliant. But don't worry, folks, it doesn't end there. If you've decided that actually you prefer to be taking part in this conference than doing your work, as Lucy has already put into the chat. And we've got more starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon UK time. So that's in 4 hours time. And we've got a range of phenomenal speakers. We've got the likes of, so Gavin Mudd, he is the person behind the UK critical minerals list. So if you want to find out why the UK thinks certain things are critical or not, then it's all Gavin's fault. So come and listen to his rationale with regards to all of that. We've also got Melody McNeil, who comes from PAC. So this is an organisation that's fantastic and consists of a lot of people who used to work for USAID, and so really getting a very interesting perspective of the world. We've got insight from Kevin D'Souza on the coexistence with artisanal mining, so from conflict to coexistence. Are there any lessons that we can learn from all of that? Burak, who's going to give us some insight into risk management in infrastructure and large-scale projects and real estate, and many, many others. So please feel free to come along this afternoon and play with us with regards to the next set of conversations. Or, of course, everything is being recorded and loaded up online. This is about sharing our thoughts, our opinions, our feelings, and integrating with one another, because as Jan Henk and Anthony has been saying, our biology is pretty good. we're quite good at survival as human beings, but we all know that just because something is working well in some areas doesn't mean to say that it can't change. There we go, Anthony. I've stolen your words. So with that, thank you very, very much, everybody, and we'll see you in a few hours.